And I just wanted to say a few things, and please, everybody, anybody else who wants to get up and say something, please feel free to. So, I guess the thing is everybody knows my mother, and so, and she was definitely inscrutable, right? I spent a significant part of my life trying to understand her, navigate her enigmatic, personality. She was extremely private, but very curious about other people, and she was extremely intelligent, but also inflexible sometimes. She loved to argue and debate, but she was extremely.
Like a lot of us.
Why are you looking at me?
She was extremely critical, but she could be most comforting when you needed it most, and she was insensitive and unempathetic, but would turn around and give you insight into exactly how you were feeling and how you should deal with it. And she was a master of the guilt trip. Okay, like I used to say, it was she didn't send me on a trip. It was like a full package tour with a guide, right?
A guilt guide.
Yeah, and yet she could prop you up and give you confidence when you needed it most. And for me, at least, she was really difficult to understand. And let me just give you a few stories to illustrate. Yeah. My father was stationed at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base when I was 2. And when I started to take the bus to school, it picked me up right outside the door. And there was a bully who was older and bigger than me, and he used to like push me down and do all this kind of stuff. And he was doing it for several days, and I would go home complaining, at the end of the day about this bully. And unbeknownst to me, my mother was watching the whole thing all the time from the window, so she saw everything. And this escalated for a whole week until the bully finally, it hurt me somehow, and I ran into the house. And when I ran into the house and told her about it, she says, what do you think she did? So she told me,
Punch him in the nose.
Go out there and punch him in the nose. And I didn't want to. I was a pretty sensitive
How old are
kid.
you again?
I don't know, 5, 6.
Okay.
Whatever. I didn't really want to because I was like, I could just imagine hurting somebody. I just didn't want to do that. And
Like their teeth coming out.
or I was a little afraid of it, But then she shoved me out the door. She said, you're not coming back in the house until you do it. So I went out there, and I remember like tentatively holding up my right fist and just not really punching him, but kind of shoving him with my
Pushing
fist,
him down.
or whatever. And then he ran home to his mom. And then his mom comes to my mom and tells her, oh, your kid's bad and all this kind of stuff.
Is this Thomas?
I don't know who it was, but I don't remember. But then she told that mother, told him, gave her a dressing down. Here's everything that happened. Here's what happened, and I sent him out to do that. So if there's if there's anything about it, come back to me. So and then she'd been seeing this happen for the whole week. So that was the. And then she said she would tell him that, I'd send my son out to do it again. There were some times when I was struggling at school, like especially early on. I don't know if I was bored or if I just wasn't paying attention or whatever. But I would struggle at school, and she would tell me, you're very bright, but you're a little lazy. Right? So then she would have me, I would have to come home and do homework for her. So she had things for me to do after school. She had all these supplements that I'd have to do, and I wanted to go out and play with my friends, but she also realized that was important for me for my self-worth later. So she really worked on that. And then the other thing was interesting is I would always forget my homework. I'd have trouble remembering it. So she created.
Sounds like somebody else.
Yeah. So she created a planner system for me even before that's now de rigueur in schools is to have a planner. But she created a planner system for me, and I've used that to this day. Right.
She created the planner system for you?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
She created a planner system. Wow, that's really cool.
And that's been external support.
You did create your own, and he used it to this day.
Well, it's funny because now, like at work, because of this, like I have to have those external supports. So I always set up all these external supports around me to have, like, do all the project management and get all the other people doing this, so I don't have to remember it all. And it's like, and they're like, you're the most organized person here, and I'm like, yeah, because I have all these cognitive deficits I'm trying to to cover over. So, but I attribute that to her, giving me the skills I needed to at least overcome some of those things. The other thing was she was not a morning person
Nope.
at all.
At all.
And so, so it was funny that, especially when I was in grade school after we moved to Florida, a lot of my time would be spent, I would get up in the morning and I would get myself ready. And do all this kind of stuff.
Fourth grade.
And then I'd
right?
wake her up to lock the door after me when I left. And so, so I had to write an essay about what's your morning routine in school. So I wrote this routine and I said, well, I get up in the morning. And I go and I
Make my own
I take a
breakfast.
shower, and then I go try to wake my mom up, and then I go and I make eggs for myself, and then I go try to wake my mom up, and then I have breakfast, and then I try to go wake my mom up, and then and this was, and then I get my backpack ready, and I go to the door, and then I finally get her up, and then I go and I jump up to swipe the chain lock, and I go out and I get on the bike and ride to school. So I wrote this essay, and then I don't know what was going on, but at some point I had to go in and talk to the school psychologist.
Oh, gosh.
And then my mom also got a call from social services. So we had to
I didn't
have
know
an
that.
interesting. Yeah.
That part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never called her before 12 o'clock.
No.
Absolutely. So I realized later that if I just learned to make coffee, maybe that would have been better. And now that's something I do every morning.
Yeah, for me, yeah. It gets me up.
It works wonders.
It gets
But
me up.
does it now?
And also, however, if a teacher was treating me wrong or something like that,
Oh,
she was
gosh.
always in my corner and always backing me up, almost embarrassingly so.
Embarrassing. So. Always on our side. Yes, always. To the
Yeah.
point of embarrassment.
Yeah, yeah. But one of the things I want to say is one of the final lessons she taught me was the importance of taking time and being consistent. Over the last 6 years, I went into a different industry. I started to focus a lot on the work I was doing with this new career. And especially with COVID that came in, it was very hard to keep connections with people and all that. But and also keep in mind, my mom was a germaphobe, so I
Yeah.
used to say that she used more Kleenex than Howard Hughes. So yeah. But and I would visit her sporadically, and her health was starting to degrade. But one of the things that happened was she was having I'd helped her with getting the paperwork done and getting everything done for having her roof replaced. Working with
Oh,
USAA
yes.
and all this kind
Okay.
of stuff. And so, of course, the workers come over and they're doing a bang up job getting the roof put on. But at some point, of course, she's going to yell at the workers. I
Yeah.
just know this, right? She needed a buffer. But she's yelling at the workers. She's yelling at the worker through the open skylight that he's
Yep.
replacing at the time. And of course, I had been complaining to her about that she needed to get her blood pressure checked and all this stuff. And of course, she was dizzy, fell over, broke her coccyx, and had to go into the
Sacrum.
hospital. And so,
Was that what that class that?
yeah.
No.
Yeah. And so, so I had run over there, and Jill called 911, and then we took her to the hospital and all that kind of stuff, which turned out to be a pretty good thing because then she actually had tests done
Yeah.
because she hadn't seen a doctor in a long
Slow
time.
bleed.
And when she had when the doctors came in when the nurse was doing her intake form and all that kind of stuff, she's like, what meds are you taking? I'm like, oh, I'm not taking any meds. She's like, like
You have to go to a doctor just to take meds.
But anyways, after she was discharged and she started to be more independent again, we had done some work there. I realized that she needed more, she just needed, I needed more time with her. So I realized that it also needed to be consistent and it needed to be a ritual. So that's why we started every Sunday, we would go and have breakfast, or we would go and get a meal together, and then we would do shopping together, and we would do those things every Sunday. So it was programmed into the schedule. It knew that it had to happen. It would have to, and it was, and then it was easy to schedule those, that time with her. But what was interesting about taking that time with her was that now I could get her I had time every week to kind of move her in the way of like, oh, we need to get your house sold, and we need to get you to a doctor, and I can have these conversations with her, on this regular basis, and actually, and I could persuade her, right? Which was really hard
Make
to
it
do,
think that was her
because she
idea.
would be, if I came in and tried to say, you gotta do this, it would be, immediately she would dig in her heels. I'm not going, I'm not doing this, I'm not, that kind of stuff. And so those grand gestures didn't really work, but it was those little steps that worked the best. And so I think the other thing is my family would come and my kids would go. So they realize the importance now also. They learn that same lesson of taking time, right? And so, and this is a lesson I hope all of us can take to the heart.
And
just
Howie,
remember to
one thing
take
she
time.
did, one thing she did say was when we were rushing around after she'd broken her lower back, and we were rushing around working,
Yeah.
and she did sit me down, and she goes, Kathy, I just want to talk together. And I'm like, you
Aw.
have 2 years worth of laundry to do, are you sure? And she's waiting on the knob one, the knob dryer. And so, with that being said, she said, I just want you to talk to me. And then it was just that, like, you want to help, so you see all these things needing to be done, and you're like, I've got the energy, I'll do it. And I was rushing around, not spending the time at church on that. So
Yeah.
that's where I slowed down.
No, it's, but
that
we're there.
time
right?
increment.
it's just
And
taking-
Kathy was the one that came after she came home from the hospital and spent 2 weeks in the house taking care of her. So we were forever grateful for that as well.
Oh, I wish I could spend an hour with her.
Yeah.